Happy New Year, guys, from the Ladd family. We hope that you had a Merry Christmas. This is going to be episode 4 of our series with MPS Hurler Syndrome. This is Allie and I'm Ryan. If you like this video, please hit the like button below. Also subscribe and hit the alert to receive alerts whenever we put out a new video. On episode 3, we
were about, I think, day plus 30, about 41 days in the hospital. So a bone marrow transplant is part of the treatment for Hurler Syndrome. So we went inpatient with our daughter, Kendi Ladd. She was 11-ish months old at the time. She had a bone marrow transplant, and then she never fully engrafted. She got to about 40%, and they suspected that maybe her engraftment was failing or it wasn't going to take. So she had a bone marrow aspiration and it showed very low cellularity. And so they decided the next step forward would be Campath, another form of chemo that would either wipe out, she had some lymphocytes left, and I think it wasn't clear on if they were hers or if they were her donors. So they were going to give her Campath, and it was either going to allow her engraftment to take hold and to grow, or it was going to start prepping her for a second bone marrow transplant.
So on, June probably...
Her first transplant was May 20th, I believe. And so probably June 20th, maybe a little bit later, they declared that she was going to need another bone marrow transplant. So we scheduled her, they found a match, another cord blood, and they scheduled her second bone marrow transplant for June 30th, 2015.
So on June 30th, 2015, our daughter received her next chance at life, and we were hoping that this one was going to take and we were going to see signs pretty quick. But unfortunately, we did not.
And we called these princess cells. Once she got these second cells, we decided to name them, and we named them princess cells, and we just said we hope that they grow. Cord blood, I think, does take a little bit longer than donor stem cells, but I think they still hope to see some signs of numbers, which is your ANC, probably around, I would say, day 14 to 20. And we were not seeing any signs of engraftment for Kennedy, so things were starting to get...
Well, she had a bone, she did have an aspiration, another bone marrow aspiration. That's where they, I think I explained this in episode 3, but they go in from the back side of the hip into the femur bone and take out a chunk of bone marrow and test it to see how many donor cells is in it, how much cellularity is there. And that tells them how much engraftment is happening on a deeper level. And so she had one of those around I don't know.
I know during Kendi's whole process, she had 3 bone marrow aspirations, and she was scheduled to have a 4th, and then that's when...
Well, the day she had the bone marrow aspiration, I'm going to say, I think day 18 to 20. And because they weren't seeing any signs of the transplant progressing. And on day 21, we started to see a slight number or elevation in numbers, which, like Allie said, that's the ANC and the white blood count, which is your neutrophil count and your white blood count.
And you get excited on anything over 500. And so where should have been seeing like 500, I think it was like 200, 250.
If that.
And it just sort of hung out there, and we never saw above 500.
Yeah, from day 21 to about day 27, so about 6 or 7 days there, it was the numbers would go up and they would go back down, they would go up, and they were just kept fluctuating up and down, which if they were fluctuating from 500 to 1,000, we would have been happy and going back down to 700, but they were, like Ali said, probably 250, going back down to 150, going back up 200, and just fluctuating really small. So we were called down to clinic. Allie and I were. I believe Child Life came in and took care of Kennedy and watched her while Allie and I went down to clinic. We weren't too sure what this appointment was going to be for. And they were going to basically, or no.
They were worried that Kennedy's second bone marrow transplant was failing. So we were trying to find what our third option was going to be, because she had been neutropenic for so long. Because she had been neutropenic from the preparation of her original bone marrow transplant. So Kennedy's on, by now, she's probably 60 days with no immune system. And so the risk of infection and the risk of sepsis and the risk of death and everything is getting greater and greater each day. So we were trying to find a way to get her safe, I guess.
That's kind of the way I took it. And to find out, I'm going to throw this little note in there that she's a little more of her daddy than she is her mama. So that explains her great personality and her beautiful smile. No, I'm just kidding.
Again, I don't know how to explain it, but after they tested me and Ryan, they did say that. They said if they had to choose one of us, it would be Ryan. That would be the donor. And so
the next day she was scheduled. After they explained all of this, they said one of you all are going to be a donor for her. And like Ali said, I believe it's to try and get some kind of immune system built back up into her.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was your T cells. I think maybe they were going to use his T cells, but.
And so she was scheduled for another aspiration the next day to there once again have a last grabbing chance to see if this transplant was progressing at all. And so that was day 27 that we had that appointment, that Allie and I went down to clinic. So on day 28, they allow the family to go to the local university workout gym. And so I went down to work out that morning. Allie and Kennedy both had their days and nights mixed up, so they were sleeping late. And I went to work out with a couple of other dads there, and I can just remember Allie calling me and during the middle of working out, and said that the aspiration, the bone marrow aspiration, was canceled, and that
her numbers grew.
That her numbers jumped over to 500 overnight, and that she had just progressed completely. And they were so excited. I remember Allie said they came in, and the nurse practitioner, is that who it was, or
it was?
One of the
it just
doctors?
Wasn't our doctor. Yeah, it was a doctor,
It
but they
came
don't
in.
normally wake you up if you don't come out for rounds, depending on what the information is. But she came and woke me up.
So, but I do want to back up a little bit. I can remember that the day prior to this great news and great blessing coming, that there was obviously some devastation with that. I can remember Allie and Kennedy taking a nap after our appointment downstairs, and I can just remember telling Allie that I said, I'm going to go to the apartment and do some laundry, and I'll be back in a little bit. And her and Kennedy was asleep. I don't know if Allie ever knows this or not, but I didn't go to the apartment, and I didn't do any laundry during the whole time in the hospital, being the dad, just trying to be the rock. You try to be as strong as you possibly can be, and try to stay strong for them, and keep a straight face, and keep pressing on. But you got to get those feelings out at some point in time. So to Allie and Kennedy, I was going to do laundry, but as soon as I walked out in the parking garage and got in the vehicle, I just completely lost it, and had to sit there for a few minutes. I actually was trying to text a couple of the guys in the men's group and our pastor to just say, please throw up any prayers that you possibly can, because we need them right now. We're trying to stay strong. We're trying to do everything we can, but it's hard. It was really, really tough to just press on and just keep getting beat down with this with this bad news. I mean, we were very grateful to have Kennedy still with us, but to continue to keep getting beat down, it was just tough. It was hard, and so in the parking garage we parked so down below that my text wouldn't send, so I had to wait till my eyes dried just a little bit, and I got my composure back, and then I was able to go up to the top level and send out the text, and that just right there shows you the power of prayer, and that we woke up the next day, God had moved, and Kennedy's transplant was starting to progress, and starting to hear good things. So so day 28, her transplant progressed, and her ANC went above 500, which was really great. We've been waiting that ever since we'd started the first transplant. We was hoping to see those numbers, and then so after that, Kennedy was.
So another thing about the numbers, I said at this point Kennedy's been in the hospital 60 days straight. We did move rooms right after her second transplant. They say just so it can be disinfected really well. That was scary for me because I felt like we had been in one room for 40 days and that was my germs and our germs, and it was really scary to move into a different room that maybe they didn't clean it as well, or maybe there was a different virus in there, or it was just scary. So we did move rooms, and you don't get to leave your room unless your ANC is over 500. So this whole time, Kennedy's never left her room. She's never left the hospital.
Couldn't even go outside the hallway. Like, you literally was stuck to the room.
And we did leave some, but like if Ryan went out with the guys, I would have him come back in and strip his clothes, change his clothes, wash your hands.
Take a shower.
Sometimes take a shower, depending on where they've been. And I mean, our hands were literally bleeding. You touch your eye, you wash your hands. You touch the floor, you wash your hands. You touch the faucet, you wash your hands. You wash your hands all day long. And it proved really for both kids, it served us well. I mean, just being very overprotective. It's hard for people to understand, but
wiping your phone, wiping iPads, wiping keys, wiping.
Kennedy did possibly have signs of the adenovirus, but we saw a lot of people go through viruses and a lot worse things, and I think it was because we were so strict. And we had a baby, so it was easier a little to keep a baby confined and from touching everything, where you have kids that have their feet on the floor, they drop something on the floor and they pick it up, or they want to touch their siblings, or just different things. I mean, germs are everywhere, so.
And we did have a little pad that we could fold out and had a clean sheet on every time that Kennedy could play on. Luckily, she was just barely crawling at the time that we was inpatient, so that helped from the mobility standpoint of not walking in the bathroom, walking on the floor, and doing everything that normal toddlers would do. So.
And the chemo, Kennedy got so weak from the chemo, she had actually, before we moved rooms, she had quit putting weight on one of her legs, so she wasn't even standing anymore.
We've got a video. We had a jumper that we would put her in and hang it from the door frame, and she would sit there and jump with one leg. She wouldn't put the other leg on the ground. She would just jump with that one leg.
It was a while before she put weight down. So we were in our new room.
After that, Kennedy was kind of lethargic. She was, even though everything was going great on the transplant side, she was still receiving multiple doses of platelets, not doses, but infusions of platelets, multiple blood infusions.
Yeah. Those are other crazy things. So your blood typing can actually change. They run a blood typing test every time before they give you blood, because it's possible that your typing could change during a blood infusion. And going through transplant, you have to receive a lot of blood products. But something still wasn't right with Kennedy. Like Ryan said, the numbers to the transplant, and I kept saying something to this was definitely one of the mother instinct things. I just kept saying something's not right. She sleeps all the time. Something's just not right. And finally, Dr. Davies came, and Dr. Davies, Minnesota, is one of the top transplant hospital for Hurler. And logistically, Cincinnati worked for us, and we trusted them. But Dr. Davies trained in Minnesota, and a lot of people spoke very highly of Dr. Davies. And I don't know what her accent is or where she's from, but she was on rounds. She had started rounds that day. And I was telling Dr. Davies, and Dr. Davies said, well, we'll just spiffy her up. And so whatever Dr. Davies did, I was trying to read. She got IVIG, she got blood. We hooked her up to TPN at night for a couple of days, which I was completely against.
Which is nutrition through the IV.
And so everything combined, it spiffied her up.
And that was around day 57 or something?
Yeah.
Day 50s? Day 50 something.
Day from transplant.
Yes.
Now this is
from the second transplant.
This is probably 80 days in the hospital and probably 50 days from transplant. And so it did make Kennedy feel better, and probably day plus 60, we got a day pass. We got to take her to the apartment, and Linda, my sister-in-law, was up, and that was a good experience for her. She came up to help, and she got to go with us on our first day pass. And of course, the first time Kennedy had gotten in the car in, again, 85 days, and she got sick very quickly. And so Linda was in the back and had to get somebody else's baby all cleaned up and puke free. But we had a good visit. It was nice to be at the apartment with her, and once you get a little bit of dose of getting out, it's really hard to go back in.
And it almost felt like we broke out of prison or something, since Kennedy had been stuck in the hospital for that long and hadn't been anywhere else. It almost felt like we'd broke her out of prison, like we shouldn't. I remember feeling like we shouldn't have her here, like we have to get her back or we're going to jail or something like that, because it just didn't feel right. But we were super happy.
And they give you time. I mean, you're supposed to have, I think, 4 hours. So we're having to watch the clock. So you just want a little bit more time. Because by the time you get the puke cleaned up and you stop and get something to eat and you get the car seat out and you finally get settled and comfortable, maybe to turn on a TV show, it's time to pack it all back up and go back. And Kendi still had a feeding tube, an NG tube in her nose, so we had to pack food stuff and feeds and make sure we had milk and
just everything.
A lot of stuff. But it felt good. And probably at this point we were getting close to possibly hearing the words discharged. We finally discharged at we'd been there for 111 days, so I don't know what transplant day that was.
62. This day plus 62. On Allie's sister's birthday, as a matter of fact, is when we got discharged.
August 31st, 2015. We went inpatient, I think it was May 12th. I think we went inpatient May 12th of 2015 and got discharged August 31st of 2015 after 111 straight days. And that's probably one of the things you definitely learned. So with Kennedy, nobody told us about that you might want a mattress topper or egg crate or something to sleep on. Ryan and I both slept on twin size, maybe smaller than a twin size pull-out couch, and for a while we had nothing on it. It was terrible.
It was the old, or not old, but it was the hospital type material, that can be wiped down and disinfected easily. So, as you well know, sitting in waiting rooms, I know every one of yous have, it's just not comfortable at all,
and one of us slept in the crib with Kennedy at all times. So going between the crib and going between that, when you got to go to the apartment and get on a soft couch or the bed, it was luxurious.
Yes, because your hips killed you after being in that crib for quite a few hours. But Kennedy needed us and she wanted us, and it was a lot safer for us to sleep in her crib with her, and than it was for her to be on our bed. And if Kennedy would have been on our bed, then one of us would have been in the crib sleeping anyway. So we might as well have been there with Kennedy and let the other one at least get quite a good rest. The nurses and doctors all got pretty good laughs at walking in and well, seeing Allie in that crib, but then seeing my big old butt in that crib with Kennedy, they all got pretty tickled walking into those situations.
So that's definitely tip number one when we go through our tips. But tip number one that they didn't tell us is to get some type of mattress topper. So here in Cincinnati, they do sell egg crates down in the Family Resource Center now. But once I went in for Lincoln, I had ordered like a memory foam mattress topper. I think I ended up paying $30 for it maybe, and it rolled up and it made the stay much, much better.
Well, certainly. So we'll leave a link to that from Amazon down below, as well as also links for episodes 1 through 3. We're going to end episode 4 here with us getting out of the hospital and being able to be discharged, and we'll show you the video of what we have of us walking through. They always try to throw a pretty good party as you're walking out of the hospital on your discharge day, and sing a special song for you. So we have that,
and discharge definitely does not mean normal. So stay tuned to see how hard it is. It's still very hard and a long journey to go. Still
a lot more to stay in Cincinnati. We were not being able to go back to Tennessee by any means. So like I said, episodes 1 through 3 links will be below, as well as the link for the mattress topper. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Also subscribe and hit the bell to receive notifications whenever we post a new video. And we hope to see you for episode 5. And we thank you so much and hope that y'all had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Happy 2020.
God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you later. Thank you. She didn't like her singing to him before? Thank you.
You're welcome.
So proud. We are so proud of you. You've been fearless and strong and brave all along. We wish you all the best and good luck to you.
Yay! Tell them bye-bye. Tell them bye-bye.
Oh, no. It's purple. She's like, what is coming? Can you tell bye-bye? She's like, every other
Tell them
time
bye-bye.
they don't see me.
There you go. Oh.